Happy 1-year anniversary to Pieces of a Woman podcast. I just wanted to share what my favorite episode was. It was episode 39 called What is Holding You Back Personally or Professionally. It was just really pertinent on the day I listened to it. It happened to be just what I needed to hear, as are a lot of the other episodes for Pieces of a Woman. I love that they cover all different aspects of being a woman and just the timely message that they're sharing with women out there. Again, happy anniversary, and here's to many more.
First, we want to thank Tina Hogan for sharing her favorite episode with us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tina. That really meant a lot. I love that.
So today's episode, we are going to celebrate by covering what we've learned in the past year.
Yeah, what we've learned, what our top episodes were that people downloaded.
Yeah, what the top downloads are and how some of those really surpassed some of the others. So we kind of have learned what people want to hear and what maybe they don't want to hear.
Yeah, very true.
So we're also going to share some insight that our listeners have given us personally.
I know, you guys, this is a treat. So it's really great. I want to thank everybody who was so gracious to send in what their favorite episodes. So yeah, we want to share that with our listeners.
Okay, so let's get to it.
Okay. All right. So this might be surprising, but Cristie, our top 5 episodes that were downloaded, number 1 was Be Your Own Sexpert, which happened to also be our first episode. So maybe that had something to do with it.
Well, I would like to say to that, in this episode, we're going to talk about, what we've learned, but also, maybe giving some ideas to people what they can do in their podcasting. And I would have to say that was one of our first episodes.
Yeah.
And you and I spent a lot of time laying out what those first 4 episodes were going to be.
Oh, yeah. We knew it was going to matter who we had on.
Right. So we really wanted to be compelling. We wanted to have someone that was dynamic and be your own sexpert. I mean, even the title.
I know, it was so awesome. And Dr. Juliana, where she is today even. Oh my gosh, she's awesome. Well, not surprising. So second was The Relationship with Your Body by Dr. Juliana. Our third episode that was downloaded the most was Self-Love. And that was, do you remember that with Megan Logan?
Oh.
It was, It's Not All Bubble Baths and Manicures.
And she had the workbook.
She did.
That you could literally go through, and it was like an intentional journaling process.
Yeah.
Where you really could connect with yourself. And we talked about other ways of self-love, which we were kind of focused on self-care.
Yes.
And there was a whole different dynamic to it that was amazing to hear from her.
Oh, she was awesome. So that was the third most downloaded episode. And then the fourth was When Your Child Becomes an Addict, with the brave moms who chose to share their story. And that was it was actually a 2-part episode. And that was powerful to hear from both of them.
And they were so beautifully vulnerable with us in that. And so, I'm so glad that made the top 4 because it was an amazing episode.
Number 5 is Finding Hope in Beauty.
That was with Ruby Dahl.
Ruby Dahl, yes.
Ruby Dahl is the writer.
Yes.
And she shared what it was like to come off of a broken relationship and how to find herself again. Oh.
Yeah. And she's the poet. She writes poems.
Yes.
And she's amazing. I still follow her. She's got really inspirational stuff. So so those were our top 5 episodes for last year. And anyway, it was awesome. Thank you all. And you guys are going to hear the snippets from our amazing listeners, a few of our amazing listeners.
Hi, I'm Cindy. I love Pieces of a Woman podcast for so many reasons. A few of my favorite episodes include Celebrating Our Mothers, the one they did for Mother's Day last year. It made me laugh. It made me cry. It was really a beautiful interview. I also love The Past That Shapes Me. They turned the mic on Cristie and DeAnna and talked about their childhoods and what helped shape them into the courageous, strong, beautiful women they are today. I love those episodes. Another one I loved was Parenting Adult Children, and anyone with adult children knows how hard that is. I really enjoy a lot of the episodes, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for us.
I love Pieces of a Woman podcast because it covers a scope of topics that all women in all ages can relate to. I have a lot of favorite episodes, but I think one that I resonated with as of recently was episode 42, Simplify and Decluttering. Decluttering your home and life not only helps physically, but it can also help you shed some of the emotional baggage that we tend to carry around. What I would like to see in an upcoming episodes would be anything related to helping with mental health. There are so many of us struggling right now with anxiety and depression. It's so good to have the support to be open to discussing techniques to help people overcome it. Thank you, Pieces of a Woman, for creating this safe space.
So if we're going to kind of transition into how this last year has been for us in our podcasting world, because we both do other jobs, as most of our listeners know, and this is kind of our little side gig. Let's just be real. So we are celebrating 1 year, and we are not truly a monetized podcast yet. But hey, we made it 1 year.
We did.
So our goals for next year is maybe we'll get that whole financial piece into play.
Yeah.
But,
well, with that, so saying that, what's our why behind it? Because we are still super pumped about it. We still get so excited about it. What do you think drives us? I mean, it's not the financial aspect of it.
Definitely not the financial. I don't think either one of us came into this thinking that in doing this podcast that we were looking for it to be monetized for us. And I don't want to speak for you, but I know we're kind of together on this. We just really wanted to create a community of women.
Yeah.
A place where they can hear all sorts of topics that relate to who we are, why we are the way we are, and just everything that kind of impacts us in our life journey.
Yeah. So going into that, with that said, how has podcasting helped us? How would you say? I want to hear from you first.
So how has podcasting maybe changed or enhanced my life?
Yeah.
I would say, just on a basic level, it was a challenge that, we both kind of put in front of us. So for me, it was a big challenge to take on this whole other position and learn how I was going to navigate it alongside everything else we have in
Plus
our lives.
learning the technology side of it. Oh my gosh.
The technology piece was such a big, heavy part of just learning technology, which I still don't know. And you tend to be the better person on that. But I think it took me out of my comfort zone from a speaking aspect. It's really opened me up to be a little more relaxed with how I'm communicating, but also being able to think a little bit on spur of the moment, a little more spontaneous. And so that's been amazing. The listening part has been a learning thing for me too, to really just sit back and listen and be in the moment so that you can really learn from the different guests that we're talking to.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. And I think you are really good at being spontaneous. I feel like you're far better than I am at that.
Oh gosh, no.
Yes.
No.
I think my takeaway from how has it impacted me is it's looking at the world so much. It seems like it makes the world so much smaller. We have talked to people we probably would have never met, never talked to.
Ruby doll.
Fascinating women. Ruby's a perfect example that
lives in another country.
Wow, yeah. And just how the podcast community, but also people wanting to have a bigger reach, and their willingness to share their story and what they're doing and their work. And I mean, that's been a big thing. But yeah, getting out of our comfort zone, doing something that's totally out of our norm.
The balance of all that. But I kind of want to go back a little bit, because you talked about how we've been able to meet people that we maybe never would have met. And to add to that, having perspective on our life sometimes is really hard for us to get outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so being able to have the time with these guests and learn their stories and hear their stories has allowed me to really kind of reflect on some of the things that I might be dealing with day to day and have inspiration from them.
Yeah.
We've had so many inspiring stories, and again, just being able to go outside of myself and hear some of these stories that, I've looked at and thought, oh, wow, I don't know how I would have handled that, or, the strength and the poise and the courage that a lot of these guests have displayed has been super powerful for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. That's so great. Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, I think it's just learning and hearing from different women and topics that, like surrogacy. Wouldn't have really thought to talk about that, but it was fascinating to me to hear the work that's being done and just the opportunities out there.
If you haven't listened to that episode, go take a scroll through. We're over 50 episodes.
I know. It's so exciting. Yeah. We took a little time off at Christmas, but yeah, we are over 50 episodes.
Okay. So I was going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Have you had anybody reach out to you and give you like maybe, let's call it constructive feedback, or maybe critiqued you?
Yeah, for sure.
In your podcasting or whatever.
Yes.
Have you?
Oh, yeah. I have had, here I go. That's one of them. You say a lot, me. And I know I do. And I try not to say it. It's just sometimes you're in the moment and you're thinking and you're trying to put your words together to articulate, and it comes out. But I get, hey, you say a lot.
Okay.
So that's one for me.
Okay. So
there's more.
I before I get into mine, I hired a coach years ago to talk through that and to help me with that. And I'm still guilty of it. I still I haven't perfected it by any means. One tip that she gave me was, whenever you think you're going to go and say, take a breath.
Right.
And that's sometimes it helps. It doesn't always help. But anyway, I got some feedback just recently, this last week. Okay. So we started doing, there I go. I just did it. So we started with our Zoom video, putting them in the YouTube.
Right.
And having a more visual side of our podcast.
Right.
And apparently the readers that I wear in the podcast are out of style. And I need to update my readers.
That's what you got?
So thank you, Kim Naylor, for sharing with me, because I think only a friend can tell you, why are you wearing those readers? You really need to change your readers on your podcasting. So within minutes, she went online to Amazon and ordered me some more stylish
readers.
Those are
cute.
These are not it. These are the old readers.
I'm like, those are cute.
These are the old readers.
Okay, that is funny.
So apparently I'm out of date, out of style. So
okay,
that was
funny.
Yeah.
Well, we've had some feedback on all different kinds of things, what people want to hear, what they've enjoyed. I love getting the text or the messages of, hey, that was a great podcast today. I love that. That resonated with me. And I love getting that. But yeah, there's been a few. I ask, like, tell me. And only good friends will really be honest with you. So I appreciate that.
I was thinking somebody was going to say, Cristie, did you do your hair today? Last thing on my list was the readers. We were blessed with some of our listeners to send us in some audio recordings sharing some of their favorite episodes.
Yeah.
DeAnna and Cristie, I can't tell you how much I have enjoyed your Pieces of a Woman podcast. Congratulations on 1 year in. I can't wait to see what you two do. It is so hard to narrow down my favorite episodes. I would say your How Your Girlfriends Save You, your solo trips, and especially episodes about your past. I think one of my favorite things about your podcast is how genuine and authentic the two of you are. It really is like being out at a girls' night without the hangover. So thank you for sharing so much of yourselves, and I look forward to continue listening.
Okay, so what are 6 things we've learned in the past year?
Okay.
I have our top 6. Tell me if you agree with this.
Okay,
go for it. If we need to add more.
Okay.
I guess 6 things we've learned and must-haves. We've had a podcast manager for the majority of the podcast. We started with a podcast manager.
Correct.
We realized that we needed to make a switch, and we hired a dedicated podcast manager that does everything from our editing to our scheduling to anything that we really need. Alexis is amazing, and we don't know what we were doing before, how we managed without her.
It's learning to get the right fit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So podcast manager is number 1. Second, and I would actually say they go together. Podcast manager and social media manager, both number 1.
Yes.
We have Sanya, who handles all of our social media posts. So for those of you that think that DeAnna and I are just sitting here creating social media posts during our day job, nope. We don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's not our specialty.
For sure.
So Sanya creates all of our social media posts, and she does an amazing job. And so that took so much off our plate.
Oh my gosh, huge.
Is a definitely must have.
Right.
I would third say dedicated, designed website.
Yes.
So we went with a template website when we first started, and we both kind of felt like maybe that was kind of sketchy, but at the time we were focusing on the podcast, and so it really wasn't super important to us. But as we were trying to bring in guests, and guests that were maybe at
vetting guests.
Yeah, just basically finding really quality guests, we learned that a website was super important because they are going to go to our website to see what that looks like. And so we hired a website designer and invested in that. So that is in our top 3.
Loved how it turned out.
I would say another learning was if an interview doesn't go right, or if it just doesn't jive with what you're maybe trying to put together.
The message. Yeah, I would say there were times we've interviewed people and we've actually done the recording and felt a little obligated that we needed to air the episode, and then got feedback later that, no, it was okay. Or maybe got feedback of, didn't really like that episode, which is great. And we want to hear that. We know we don't have to air every recording.
So we need to go with our gut.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't feel right, then we record something different.
For sure. For sure.
And I would say probably the last thing is enjoying the process. We've learned to just enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Although I can get totally wrapped around the pole when it comes to the data. How many downloads do we have? Who's downloading our episode? How many followers do we have on our social media? I'm the one that really gets kind of.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point, because we have to go back to where we started and why we started. And it isn't necessarily, we're doing it for the right reasons. When you're doing it, when our hearts are in the right place, the results will come. And it's meant to be. I think we have been naturally growing, which has been fantastic. And we've got dedicated listeners that listen all the time. And I love that. That's just, it's what a big compliment that is.
And it's been a good experience.
Yeah, huge experience.
My favorite episode of Pieces of a Woman podcast was episode number 7. It was the Mother's Day tribute. What I loved about that episode is how vulnerable both mothers had to be. They had some very trying times in their life while raising their children and while being raised themselves. And they were very vulnerable and honest and raw about where they went wrong and their imperfections. And then look at how wonderful their daughters turned out. So they had a huge part to play, whether it be that things were so rough that their daughters had to choose other avenues to take in life to make their lives better. Either way, they had such a great influence on their daughters, both good and bad, and were vulnerable and explained their insecurities that I just thought was just so beautiful to listen to them be sad and to listen to them talk about how proud they are of their daughters. I loved it.
Actually, I think we have one more that we should probably include.
We have another.
So don't you think that, as much planning as we do, we try to be, proactive. We're doing all the planning. We're writing out what the episodes are going to look like. But part of the process is the mistakes that we're making.
Yeah.
Maybe we think that we know exactly what we're going to say, and it really doesn't quite come out the way we think we're going to say it. So the bloopers are part of the process. And we're thankful to Alexis, who actually can edit and help us to sound good.
Yeah, I love it.
In this episode, we talk with Dr. Kim. If you are a parent with a teenager, let me start over.
You got to record. Are you starting or am I? And what a insightful.
We're going to do this over. Okay. Okay. Do you want to go again?
Well,
hi, Alexis. Hey, Alexis. How you doing?
We're a shit show today.
We are kind of a shit show. Okay, we're going to start. Okay, go.
Well, here we are today in this episode, and we're talking about fitness in your.
Stop.
Okay. I don't like this. So, okay, let's start.
Do it again. Looking at what embodiment coaches, we can't do that. We need to cut that out. I lost myself. Okay.
So
that was that number 6?
That was our top 6.
Top 6. Okay. I will say a couple of things I want to add to that. I agree with your list. Coming together technology wise, embracing learning new things. We've had to learn from zero. Like we didn't have any background.
Well, we started with GarageBand.
To do, and we're still not necessarily where we want to be.
I'm sure Alexis would like us to upgrade our recording system.
Yes, which we can work on that. We're working on that, Alexis. So anyway, yeah, I would say learning, just getting out of our comfort zone has been a true blessing, and sometimes feels like a curse, but I think it's been a true blessing.
Okay, so if you are ever thinking about maybe starting a podcast, you're wondering if it's the time commitment, you're wondering if it will help benefit your business, or you're just contemplating, how do you start a podcast? We're saying go for it.
Go for it. Don't be afraid.
Don't overthink it. There's lots of resources out there that will outline what you can do. You don't necessarily have to go down the path we did in terms of hiring a coach and a podcast manager, but there are so many successful podcasts out there that are doing everything on their own, and it works.
Yeah.
So
no, it's so great. And today is all about celebrating. We are just so grateful to all of you. It's a big thank you to all of you for following us on this journey, as we have talked about so often. We are super excited for what we have coming up. And so we've heard some feedback
from Heidi Snar, from Aaron.
Yeah, Cindy and Sharon also, who have been gracious enough. But just thank you so much, ladies. We have some male followers too, which is great. I hear from all the time. But we've got some great upcoming episodes. We're going to be dealing with men's mental health and how we can support the men in our lives. We're going to dive into more the benefits of therapy, hormones. We've got a lot of topics that are coming up that we're super excited to share in our next year. But Cristie, I just want to say cheers to us for an incredible first year. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.